Hi there, my name is Jana, and today I'm going to show you how to use a salary calculator to calculate your salary here in Germany. And that's really important, right? In Germany, we have a lot of tax deductions and social security contributions that you have to pay. And this impacts the amount of salary you get at the end, right? So when you negotiate salary, you always negotiate gross salary. And the money you get at the end, like the money that's actually credited to your bank account, will be much less. And often when you apply for jobs or latest at the interview, the persons who are interviewing you will be asking for your salary expectations. And that at that stage, it's just important to get it right, because you don't want to have any bad surprises when you actually start your job here, right? So that's why today we'll take a look at a salary calculator, and I'll just share my screen with you and walk you through the different types of information and the things that you have to keep in mind when you work with a salary calculator. Before I do so, make sure that you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, turn on the notifications, and take a look at our other videos, of course, after watching this video. There are a lot of great videos about careers in life in Germany that will probably be helpful for you if you are an international here in Germany. So let me share my screen with you. By the way, I've just randomly picked a salary calculator. I found when Googling for gross net salary calculators, for instance, that there are a few options. So I'm not getting any paid marketing for this. I've just picked one of the first Google results, and they are all roughly the same. I found that they are sometimes a bit off when it comes to the translations. I think it's also difficult. I also struggle with getting the terminology right, because I'm also not a tax accountant or a tax consultant. Just to also point that out, you should always consult a tax specialist when it comes to actually doing your tax declaration here in Germany. It's highly recommended, because the tax system here in Germany is a bit complex, and you can get money back if you do it the right way. Not in all of the cases, of course, but I just recommend that. So let's take a look at it. As I said, when you negotiate salary, also what's written in your work contract is always the gross salary. So here I've typed in 4,800 euros, because if you are aiming for a blue card, if you don't fall into the shortage profession, you will need, I think, minimum 55,000 euros a year, a bit more already. So you will probably fall into a similar salary category. Then the first thing it asks for is the accounting period. So if it's yearly or monthly data, this varies a bit in work contracts. It's sometimes stated as annual salary, sometimes as monthly salary. If you want to learn more about how salary payment works, there's also a great video. I'm going to link it here, where I explain how you actually get your salary in Germany. It's on a monthly basis, by the way. But yeah, you can calculate with both. Then it asks for the accounting year, because that has an impact on the tax level that you will fall under, because it always changes, of course, right? Taxes are subject to change. And then there's the first thing that's sometimes confusing. Here it asks for a tax-free allowance. So in Germany, if you have a lower level of income, and also if you fall into a certain group, for instance, if you are a student, you have a tax-free allowance where you don't have to pay income tax, and also not where you don't have to pay certain contributions. And today I will be looking at a case where you are aiming at full-term or full-time employment, permanent employment with an employer here in Germany. So that's kind of a simple calculation model. If you fall into a category where you have a lower income or part-time jobs, it's a bit more complex. So for that, I think it's better to do some additional research. If you're aiming for a full-time job, I would skip this category of tax exemptions. It's something that's nice to have. For instance, if you're a single person, I think you get a bit more than 9,000 euros per year that are tax-free. where you don't have to pay income tax. But my guess is that most of you are looking for a permanent job. So I would skip this category, and then if you have a tax-free allowance at the end and you get more money, it's great, right? But just to be on the safe side. Then the next thing, and that's always something that people struggle with, is the tax classification, or tax category is what it's called here. So here in Germany, we have 6 different types of tax classes. And these classes are usually assigned automatically. You don't just get to choose freely which tax class you fall into. And the tax class is important because it's a decisive factor for the level of tax that you will be facing, the amount of taxation, so the money that's being deducted from you. That also depends on your level of income. And this is a very complex framework. That's why I always recommend using a salary calculator. You may have watched my other video where I do give an example of a salary calculation. And I also recommend using a salary calculator. I think I said the same in the other video. So, as I said, it's usually assigned automatically. Here you also have this nice, this nice info box. I don't know what happened here, where there's an explanation provided, and you will see that it says that, okay, there are different tax categories. The first one is for singles and persons who are not married. So those persons usually fall in tax category 1. That's where most of you are probably assigned automatically. Then there's a second tax class, which is for single persons who are single parents, so people who are taking care of their child but are living on their own, not with a partner. So that's where you will be having a bit of less tax deductions, just to make your life a bit easier. And then we have these interesting tax classes 3 to 5. And here it gets a bit confusing. So if you are married, there is a kind of thing where you can split taxes here in Germany and benefit from a lower taxation. And that's very interesting if one of you earns a lot of money and the other person makes much less money. Because in Germany, you have the option to go for tax category 3 and 5, which we call a kind of tax splitting model here in Germany. And tax class 5 is a very high tax class where you have a lot of deductions, and that's usually applicable for persons who have a higher income. And tax class 3 is a tax class where you have less deductions. And the nice thing is that here, as persons who are married, you can just swap. So the person who has a low income can go into the tax class where you have a lot of deductions, and the person with a higher income can go into the tax class with less deductions. And that's only possible if you are married. So that'll help you save taxes. But that's only interesting if your income is not on the same level. If you have a kind of equal income, which is always nice, right? Then it will be tax category 4 for you if you are married. Also, if you're not sure, because maybe your spouse is moving along and you don't know what kind of income your partner is going to have, then I would always use tax category 4 just to be on the safe side, and then you can optimize later. So when you are married, you get to choose what kind of tax category you want to start with. If you want to go for this 3-5 model or for the model of having a tax class 4. Anyways, if you are only realizing this later, you anyways do a tax declaration at the end of the year, and then you can go for the optimum and just change it and get your tax back. So if that's always possible to change this in your tax declaration later, and also you get to change your tax classification once a year. So you can go for a change, opt for a change if something changes in your setup with your partner, right? That's also sometimes the case. But if you're just calculating roughly right now, I would always go for tax class 4 if you're married. In this case, let's use category 1. So let's just say that, okay, you're single, you're not married. And by the way, being single doesn't mean not having a partner, right? But there's a difference between being married in terms of taxes here. But I'm not going into detail with this right now. So let's just think that, okay, you're a single person. And then you have the next category, church tax. That's a weird thing, right, here in Germany. So if you have already moved to Germany and if you've done your Anmeldung, you were asked if you are a member of the church, the Christian church. And if that is the case, you have to pay church tax here in Germany. I haven't done a video on that, but if you Google for Anmeldung, or also if you check out our blog, you will find information on that. Just be aware of it, because church tax, I don't have the percentage right now, but it's a certain amount of money and it will be deducted from you automatically. If you are not a member of the Christian church, if you were not baptized, of course you don't have to pay church tax. So this is a bit up to you. It depends on what kind of information you provide. So it's important to be aware of this. I will just calculate with no. That's, I think, often the case when people move here from abroad, but I have seen people who've had bad surprises on this. So just make sure that you read up on this a bit, particularly if you are of Christian profession. Just make sure that you are aware of this. Then, of course, the state matters, because the deductions you will be facing also vary a bit. So let's calculate with, let's say Berlin, because I think a lot of you are moving to Berlin or aiming for Berlin, or Munich. That wouldn't be a bit different, but it's easy to choose. And then let's say you are 29, or let's say 30, okay? So if you have children, you also get some parts like tax exemptions. You have a kind of different tax class. You already heard that, right? To keep the case simple, I would just say no. So if you have kids, you get to choose here how many kids you have. And there's a bit of a confusing thing with having half a child. So you cannot have half a child, right? What matters is the child that's registered on your tax card. So you can look that up as well, how this works, if you want to figure it out. But let's just guess that, okay, you have no kids. If you have kids, I would just calculate with 1 or 2 or however many you have, because you may not be entirely aware right now how you're going to split the taxes and the registration, right? Then the last part, which is confusing and important to know about, is the health insurance, pension, and so on. So for all these insurances, the salary calculators will always give you the option to opt for a compulsory insurance or a mandatory insurance or a voluntary insurance. And if you are a permanent employee in Germany, you don't actually have the choice to go for a voluntary option. It's always mandatory. So health insurance, pension, and unemployment insurance in Germany are mandatory for everyone who's considered an employee under the German tax law. So for you, it will always be a compulsory insurance. The only other option you have is a private health insurance. That's the case if you fall into a certain level of income, if you have a very high income. I've often seen that expats or internationals who move here go for a private health insurance. So that's a bit confusing here in Germany, because we have the option of public health insurance and private health insurance. I'm not going to explain this in detail right now, but I have a great video, which I'm also going to link for you up here, where I explain the difference between public and private health insurance in Germany. So as I said, very often people go for a private health insurance, but I think 90% of the persons in Germany have a public insurance. So if you have BAMA or AOK or TK, these are all public health insurances in Germany. And as an employee, you will most probably fall under this category. So if you have not moved to Germany, I would calculate with the compulsory or mandatory public health insurance, because that's the highest probability for you that you will go for this option. And then you have something which is called the health insurance add-on, which is also confusing to people. So in Germany, just to explain this very shortly, very briefly, the amount of health insurance, like the fee you pay, is determined based on your income, and it's calculated with a percentage of your income. And this fee is a standardized fee for public health insurance. It's the same no matter which health insurance you sign up for. That's why you don't have to choose a particular health insurance you have here. It's different if you have a private health insurance. You would also see that if I go for private health insurance, it asks for your monthly contribution, because private health insurance can decide on that. That's why here I'm using the public one, because that's easier to calculate and it's the most probable case. The health insurance have the option to add a certain percentage to the standardized fee. So this is up to 1.1%. If I'm not mistaken, they are not allowed to add more. Here you get a nice list of the percentage that health insurances add, and you can just look it up. If you're not sure, I usually calculate with 1% just to be on the safe side. That's an easy approach. And then you have pension and unemployment. And as I said, if you are an employee, it's always compulsory for you. This is only different if you are self-employed, or if you have a very mixed model, then it may be different. But in every other case, it's compulsory for you. You cannot step out of pension or unemployment insurance. You cannot just avoid it. It's mandatory. So in that case, there's not much choice. You can just leave it the way it is with a preset compulsory insurance or mandatory insurance, and then just hit the calculate button. I don't know why they didn't translate it here. It's called berechnen, which means calculate in Germany. So let's calculate it now, and let's see what the calculator says. So you can see now here it calculates monthly and yearly annual salary, which is also making it easier for you. And you will see now that it calculates the solidarity surcharges. I'm surprised that this comes at 0. I have to check that again. I think we said Berlin, right? As a destination. Yeah, we did. We can try with a different country, maybe, say Bavaria. Okay, still solidarity surcharge none. Yeah, that's actually correct. Sorry, I confused that. So gross salary, solidarity surcharge is not applicable anymore. I said that, okay, you're not member of the church, so there will be no deductions. So then you only have something which is called the salary tax here, which is income tax. That's determined based on the tax class that you've chosen. So you can play around with that a bit also if you want to figure out how this varies. For instance, with this being married and splitting model, then it may be interesting for you. So you see that if you make 4,800 euros, and if you're a single person, if you're not married, you will be paying almost 900 euros of tax. That's quite a lot, right? And then on top of that, you have the social security contributions. So pension, unemployment insurance, health insurance, care, like nursing care, which is again more than 900 euros. So in total, the deductions you will be facing are more than 1,800 euros out of the 4,800 euros that you'll be making. So if you aim for 4,800 euros gross salary, what you end up with at the end of the month, and that's the money you get on your bank account, will be a bit more than 2,900 euros a month, which is considered to be a very good salary in Germany, by the way. But the amount of money you need, of course, also depends a bit on the city you live in. For instance, in Munich, cost of living is very high, whereas in Berlin, it's much lower. So I just researched that. I've also published an article on our career blog where you get like different steps that I explained on how to calculate your salary. I'll link it in the comments for you. But just be aware of the fact that there are a lot of deductions you'll be facing from your gross salary. And I hope that this explanation gave you some clarity on how to use the salary calculator. So the most important things you need to know is that the tax class is dependent on your family status and dependent on whether you want to go for a kind of splitting model if you are married. In any other case, it's automatically decided. Then church tax is dependent on the information you provide at your Anmeldung, a bit complex. And then Pension and unemployment insurance and nursing care are mandatory for every employee in Germany, so you don't really have a choice there. It's always mandatory. Health insurance depends on your choice. You have the choice to go for a private health insurance if you're an expat, if you have a certain level of income, if there's a private insurance that accepts you. In most of the cases, people opt for a public insurance. So if you're not sure yet, I would always calculate with a public insurance. But as I said, there's another video where I provide more information on this. So these are the most important things that you have to pay attention to. And just be aware, I always roughly calculate between 30 and 40% deduction. If you want like a rule of thumb, to just like a very, very rough calculation, if you need to calculate it quickly, if you don't have a salary calculator at hand, that's usually like the amount that I calculate with if I have to do a quick calculation. So I hope this was helpful for you. I know this was kind of a long video, but I just wanted to make sure that you get your salary right. Leave me your comments, leave me your questions if you have any additional questions on how to calculate salary in Germany, and I'll be happy to answer them. See you soon.